Hello and welcome to the Next 100 Days podcast. My name is Graham Arrowsmith.
And my name's Kevin Appleby. So, Graham, today we've got a fellow podcaster with us.
Yes, we do. His name's Stephen Haggerty. Have I got that right?
Spot on.
I mean, because most people would say Haggerty, wouldn't they?
Yeah, Haggerty.
And that must really annoy you. I mean, because, you know, when people get your name wrong.
It's a funny one, isn't it? Because it's one of those things that I think it happens so frequently that I just shrug it off now. I just go, yeah, I'll run with that.
You're too cool for school, honestly, really.
Graham is world famous, though, for getting the guest's name wrong.
Wow, there you go.
Yeah, it comes to me at the beginning of the podcast to introduce the guest, and Kevin gets out of it because I'm sure he would butcher more than me anyway.
What was the hardest guest name that you ever had?
We've had some foreign sounding names, but I can't recall off the top of my head. And even if I could recall, I'd butcher it again, wouldn't I?
Yeah, exactly.
But no, the truth is, look, we're going to call you Stephen. So basically, we're not going to get that bit wrong. But it's Stephen with a V, just in case anybody's actually
the correct way to spell it.
Yeah. So, but as Kevin mentioned, you were, and I'm saying were, a podcaster. Now, tell us a little bit about that.
A podcaster that's currently taking a hiatus, I think, is the correct terminology.
That sounds like a painful medical condition.
Maybe it is. Maybe in some world it is. Or maybe just being a podcast host is a painful medical condition in itself.
Okay.
You know, we've all been there. So, you know, in 2020, 2020, just before COVID was even in 2019, just before COVID was even touching our lips, I'd made the decision to think, okay, in 2020, I'm going to run a podcast. And then I distinctly remember I was sat in my in-laws' living room, and I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to interview a founder every single day, because that's my thing. You know, I'm a business coach as well as an agency owner, so I've always coached founders. And I thought, listen, if I want to get in front of more founders in a very selfish way, I guess, I thought I'm going to interview 365 founders. And January 1st rolled around and I started. Very little prep, I must say. I just came up with the name, Founders 365, very original, and cracked on. And for the first 3 months, I did it every day. Every single day for the first 3 months, including weekends. I interviewed a founder. I also did it live. So I live streamed it and zero editing. As soon as the live was done, ripped the audio, uploaded it onto the podcast in places, and away we went. I wanted to keep it really quick. Otherwise, you know, you're doing months and months of editing and things like this. And then 3 to probably 4 or 5 months in, I just thought, why am I doing the whole everyday thing? Like, where did that goal come from? And I had to sit down with myself seriously and just think, what does that achieve? It, you know, a few people at the end of the day would pat me on the back and say, oh, that's a really good effort. Well done. But a week later, no one's going to care that I did 365. No one's going to, you know, it's a good story and that's about it. So then I changed it up and said, look, I'm just going to continue what I'm doing, but I'm not going to put that pressure on doing the 365. And I ended up actually having, you know, getting better quality of guests from doing that. You know, not having to rush around if a guest cancelled last minute, you know, all those things that I'm sure you guys are well aware of as well. But I was very fortunate to end in just before Christmas on 222 episodes. Wow. Or season 1. So season 2 is still in the works.
I love this season idea that but 221
222.
And tell us, how long were they?
So varied from 30 minutes to an hour.
Oh, that's really impressive.
Yeah,
that's seriously impressive stuff, and such a lot of content there. I mean, and particularly as it's been very narrow gauge at founders of businesses. So, you know, I mean, I don't know what the right question is, but what did you learn?
That's a deep question. That is a long question. I learned that those that are truly successful and happy are the ones that you don't see online. So the best guests I had are the ones that keep a fairly low profile. They maybe do a podcast or two a year, but they're not the ones where you see them active in every group, active online, all over LinkedIn, all over Twitter, all over Facebook. And that made me realize something, because actually for the last 6 or so years that I've been quite active on socials for business related things, it was so drilled into you that, to be successful, you have to show up online, you have to show up on socials, you have to do this, you have to do that. And then through doing the podcast, it was I just went, actually, you know what, I'm going to go back to what I kind of originally did when I started my first business at 13, 14, and I told no one about it at the time either. Like, not a couple of my friends knew, and that's about it. But I kind of always had that work hard in silence mentality. So I've moved back to that. I've moved back to going, you know what, actually just get on with it and do things that you love. Like I love doing podcasts, which is why I said to you guys, please, can I come on the show? And you've got to fill that time with what you enjoy. With
your voice, I don't know about you, Kevin, but it's you've got a definite voice as a podcast host.
Face of radio.
It's a really, well, no, I'm not so much saying that. I mean, Kevin and I do, but not so much you. You're too young for that. But the truth is, do you do any singing or anything like that? I mean,
great voice.
It's a lovely gravelly kind of. It's almost like having a cigar on the radio. Really, I mean, do you smoke?
No, maybe I should. Imagine what that would do.
Yeah. It must be the whiskey that you drink then.
Yeah, I'm just a raging whiskey drinker. No.
Oh, that's good news.
But I have heard that before, and I would love to do more voice work and more like presenting and things like that. I get such a kick out of it. Like today, I haven't had the best day. Like work-wise, been a bit stressful. But the moment I'm doing something like this, I'm like, yeah, great. It's like if I speak on stage, I'm someone that someone that has no notes. I just rock up and let it flow. Even at my best friend's wedding, the best man speech, I didn't write anything.
No. Oh well, I'm sure that went really well. Is he still married then?
Yeah, he's now going to be my best man this year. So.
Oh well, congratulations!
Thank you very much.
Which month are you planning?
September.
Oh, so you got some time yet to run away.
Yeah.
But no, seriously. Well, I'm very pleased for you, Kevin. I mean, you've been married for goodness how long?
Ooh, yeah. Gosh, how many is it? It's 39.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's actually.
Teach me, what have you learned from 39 years of marriage?
Just agree.
This is what now I understand the podcast from that you two have created.
Yeah, well, I think it's something to do with the fact. I mean, I haven't been married quite as long. I got married in '85, and so that makes it 37 this year, isn't it? So basically, but I count. I don't really count from the marriage. I count from the day that I met her, and that's actually 40 years this year. So basically, I've been going out with her for 40 years. Going out a bit less often as we get older, but yeah,
that's a triumph in itself.
It is a bit. I mean, well, you kind of, if you find the person that you want to be with for the rest of your life, then do your best to keep hold. But going back to you and your business, you actually you have two businesses. Am I right?
Yeah. So I'm a business coach. That's been my bread and butter for the last 6 years. I've had multiple business over the years, but last year in 2020. Me and an ex-client of mine, actually, and turned friend, created this agency called GrowLeady, all about growth and lead generation. And it's been a whirlwind. I've got to be honest. We've gone from just us two, and it was a 1 a.m. WhatsApp message to him saying, "Look, I've got this idea I want to do. I think you're the guy I want to do it with. Are you up for it?" And that was in March. I think March last year. I've got this. I think I saved the message somewhere just to have a keepsake of that. And 9 months on, what are we? 9 months on, something like that. Team of 10 already, and wow. Clients all over the world, and it's fantastic. I've always wanted to do an agency. It was an itch that I needed to scratch, and it's certainly being scratched.
So an agency specializing in lead generation.
Yeah. Spot on.
Using what method?
So two core fundamentals, really: cold outreach and paid ads. So cold outreach splits into cold email and LinkedIn outreach, and then paid ads is your Facebook, your Instagram, your Google, your TikTok, YouTube.
Yeah.
Is the kind of paid versions of the social medias and TikTok, is that effective for business outreach?
Yeah, 100%. It's probably the most effective. The best way I describe it is, because organic reach gets a lot of chatter. People talk about it a lot. They say, hey, do this, post content, etc. And that's great, and it works. It's a long-term strategy, and everyone should definitely do that as well. But when you put a paid strategy behind it, you go from putting out a fishing net and you might catch a couple of, good fish, couple of tunas, to like giving yourself a harpoon where you go exactly after the people that you want to work with. And that's the difference between the two. And every business can benefit from outreach, like whether that's paid ads, whether that's LinkedIn outreach, whether that's cold email, whatever the means is, it is every business can benefit from it.
So go back a step, and the kind of client that put a client in, because you've obviously got a number of clients, but if you put a client in mind, and the kind of budget that they might have to throw your way to get a kind of reasonable level of return would be. Yeah.
So it depends on the paid ads side of things. That can vary from, a couple of £100 a month. This is ad spend I'm talking about.
Yeah, sure.
To, we spoke to a client yesterday that wants to spend £100,000 a month. Right. Build up to that over the course of the year.
Yeah.
So the limitations are really the business, whether they've got a product that is repeatable and doesn't need much, contact with someone, or is it a slow burner sales process, and the other ones will benefit better, for example. So
you've got these, you can sort of go into the sort of advertising part of Facebook, God help you if you're supporting Twitter. We'll cut it off here.
LinkedIn, TikTok.
TikTok's fascinating. I find
TikTok's an interesting one,
because if it's a business thing, I mean, I ban myself from using it because of its origins and but basically from my point of view, isn't it just Generation Z that are watching TikTok?
Yeah, but they buy stuff. If you've got an e-com store selling something that is going to appeal to them, then ads is going to do ridiculously well on there. Yeah. If you've got an accountancy, based in Glasgow, for example, TikTok's probably not the place for you.
Yeah.
But it's always about, where does your market hang out? Where does your buyer hang out? Across any platform, even if you're doing organic social, I've seen it before where people have been told, they've gone to a meeting, or they've brought a course or whatever, and they've been told that, okay, you have to do organic things, and they end up signing up to every social channel there is, whether it's Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, etc. And they start putting out this content, and they go, oh, it's not getting much reach, or they see the viewership and it's a couple of views, and then you just say, okay, so where does your customer hang out? And they might say, oh, my customers only ever really use LinkedIn, or they only ever use Facebook. Then why are you wasting your time on these other platforms? It almost becomes an ego ticking box for some people to just say, hey, I've got all these platforms running, and it's fantastic, and I'm spending all my time creating content. But what is it giving them? And realistically, very little.
I like that approach, I have to say.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of common sense.
Kevin?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely right. Yep. Really understand your avatar. What does your avatar do? If it's a business-to-business product that you've got, chances are it's going to be LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But over and above that, even business-to-business products are bought by individuals.
Yeah.
People make the buying decision. So who are those people? What sort of people are they? Where do they hang out? And I'm thinking in particular of the product that I'm involved in, and our social presence is exclusively on LinkedIn. We've thought about going onto Twitter, but I'm not convinced that too many people look at Twitter, particularly these days. I think it's probably a bit of a dead platform.
Twitter's one of those places where you go to, it's a responsive platform.
Yeah.
It's, you hear something in the news, you see something, and I do anyway. I'll go on Twitter and just read about what people are talking about. It's kind of like the eavesdropping platform.
Yeah.
You look at conversations going on, you go, oh yeah, that did happen, or this is happening. It's a good way to see people's opinions of things, the vastly different opinions of people. And actually, if you do go on Twitter, you will see that there's, again, just like most platforms, every 3 or 4 posts, it's a sponsored post or a promoted post. I can't remember what they say, promoted or sponsored. But yeah, client avatar is crucial. And also I'm within that, it's what part of the sales process are they going into? What part of the sales process are they moving into for purchasing this product today, or are they purchasing it in 6 months' time? And everything, one of the great things about paid ads and direct outreach is you can, put a cookie on that person, for example, and mess it, and they still see the ads in 6 months' time and when it is the correct time. So it's such a powerful tool that I think is hugely over marketed. Like the market for marketing agencies and ad experts and outreach and just sales in general is a hugely flooded market. But same as recruitment. I started a recruitment company years ago, hugely flooded market there as well. Because I'm a firm believer in it's how you speak with the customers, how you deal with the customers, how you set yourself apart. There's so many different ways to run a business now that there's always opportunity, and it's a shame if anyone thought, oh, because it's busy, I can't do it.
Is your business used to turning people down? Because it seems to me that, you might not do, but because you've got a breadth of options here. But it seems to me that, I was talking to somebody in locally, and he has a cosmetic, and basically he was telling me he developed it, 20 years ago, and effectively Dan Kennedy would call them it glop. So basically, you put it onto your skin, and acne's gone. You put it, onto your hands, psoriasis gone. But it can't claim that. But the reality is that people will actually say, oh, no, it does. So he's kind of going down a sort of a strategy of getting people to say that themselves, to review it. So from that point of view, but I'm linking his sort of product with with TikTok, and what I've heard about TikTok, you stick a little video on there with a little, direct response. Effectively, you've paid for the glop. I've just dropped 30 quid on a bottle, and it's just from one video. Yeah, the kids kind of like that sort of stuff. So do you have to almost be conscious of the fact that there's the actual platforms themselves have certain characteristics?
Yeah, 100%. A great example with TikTok, and we're generalizing, I guess, but it is a younger audience, and you got to think, how do younger audiences buy? And within 3 taps of your phone, you can buy a product. Yeah, you can tap the ad, go on the website, and do Apple Pay via your phone, and you've purchased the product, and it's on its way to you. So you've got to think, what is I think people's buying behaviors over the last, probably over the last 3 years, realistically, because of how much the world has changed, has changed dramatically from almost like a conscious buying behavior where they will think and consider and look at their options. And, there was a time where before I'd buy something, I'd probably have 5 different tabs up and seeing where the best place to buy that thing is. But realistically, 9 out of 10 times I'll buy it from Amazon now. Or buy it from an ad, because they're putting what you want in front of you. And this is one of the things that I think is really important to add is away from paid ads, just social media in itself, and how vastly different social media is for every single person, because it's solely designed to set up and show you what you like. Whereas, if you're going down someone has certain views, for example, their social media is going to show them people with the same views, news articles with that same viewership, and et cetera, which is why which is why it's caused such a almost like argumentative culture, And that is only because it's almost like everyone is in their bubble. They're seeing what they want to see. And then because they're only seeing what they like and what resonates with them, their argument within themselves gets stronger.
Yeah, I think Twitter's generated a sort of a Sheldon approach. I don't know if you watch The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Sheldon will go into his shell and literally and actually in an argumentative situation.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people see Twitter for what it is, which it's almost like a debate. Well, it's not. It's not even a debating chamber because that has
it's a
rules.
keyboard warrior safe haven, isn't it? But you've got to remember that whatever you put on Twitter will link up to other social medias. It will link, your Google, your search history, everything like that. So their argument, it's almost like a self-fulfilling argument because they're being proved right in their whatever argument it was. It could be that someone says trees are red, for example. That argument will be because they see it in their world, and it's very hard to argue or debate with someone that their reality is what they're saying. And I think social media as a whole, and this is why we are so focused on paid outreach, cold outreach, because you don't have to look at any of that. You don't have to get involved in any of that. You don't have to worry about too much of that. You just focus on the client avatars. You focus on the buying methods. You focus on the psychology of selling and those key fundamentals that across everyone, no matter who they are, there's people still buy things. People still purchase things. People still look at things online. And if we as a business can put our clients in front of those customers, then good for the customer because they're buying something that they desire, and good for the clients.
Is it possible that you are excluding, in effect, high net worth individuals, affluent individuals, or of a certain age group? So, I mean, Kevin and I are both proudly in our 60s now, but basically we and you would probably class us as high net worth, and so therefore, would we be in any of those platforms? Probably not.
I don't know. I know quite a few high net worth people that love Instagram, and they spend time on Instagram. They use Google, and you've got to think about where else you see ads as well. So some of these are cross platforms ads, and they follow you. So it kind of depends because high net worth. I used to work in the super industry, so high net worth individuals are sort of like very interesting to me because, and I'm talking about proper 60, 100, 120 million euro yachts. And for them, their privacy was fundamental. But now, I worked in the industry, it was like 2012 sort of thing. But now you've got that social media is now very ego based. And even for the older generation, they still want to share things with their friends. They still want to share things with their loved ones. And those tiny bits of data points are stored, right? Everything you put online, everything you type into your phone, every single thing that you do is stored. I've got probably 6 Alexas in my house. So every communication I've ever had with them is stored somewhere.
You and Kevin are obviously related.
I don't think my Alexas talk to Stephen's Alexas.
We can, though. We can link that up quite easily. We can drop in on each other.
It could be interesting. We could try recording a podcast over Alexa.
Yeah, well, this household's Alexa free at the moment. Anyway, for that, although I'm sure the phone's recording everything I'm saying. Yeah, there'll be a little jam somewhere, typing it all into a ledger somewhere.
Yeah, I'm surprised the woman on the speaker on the top of my bookshelf hasn't chimed into the conversation at this point, having mentioned her name.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I keep mine in my office on mute because the amount of times to do that. But maybe one of your listeners will now send you a Alexagram.
No, whatever you do, don't waste your money. But send it to Kevin because I'm sure he can fit another one in his house. But by all means, the thing is, Stephen, I think one of the things that first of all, I love the way in which GrowLeady.io looks. It's a really simple because I'm in the not quite the same business, but I'm in a lead generation business.
Yeah,
focused on the affluent individual. And I tend to do direct mail and things of that nature, inserts and so forth. So probably old school relative to
still works though.
Well, it has its place, and so. But what I really like about what you're doing is you're creating jobs for young people. How's that going? Is it easy? Presumably, I don't know where you're based, but are you in London?
Yeah, so I'm in Essex, right. And we're a fully remote team. Okay. But we took advantage of the Kickstarter scheme last year. And so we hired 4 people on that, all under 24. I think there's 21 and 23s. I think we ended up having, and they're all fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in, and I'm shocked, just to bring this up very shortly, because I think you guys will appreciate it. I'm shocked that they stopped the scheme, because why wouldn't you want people on universal credits to go into roles that is going to support and upskill them? Logically, it's just the most common sense thing you could possibly do. Why they didn't do it years ago, who knows? But yeah, in terms of the young, hiring young people, we've been really lucky. I've heard horror stories of Kickstarter roles going wrong, but I think because I've got a very coaching mentality that really helps. We really, our key thing is, you got 6 months with them. You want to upskill them as much as possible. And our intention is to keep everyone on, that's what we're working towards. And some of them have got to meet targets for that, obviously. And some of them are just kind of proved themselves already, to be fair. We brought on a fantastic social media person that is absolutely, started all our accounts from zero. And one thing we do within GrowLeady is we develop our own brand. So we develop our own e-com brand that's launched this week, launching on Monday. And so they're getting multiple responsibilities as how a business works. The tough thing right now is the fact that it's remote. I don't think that will change. Me and my co-founder Nick really are big believers in remote working. We've considered getting an office before, but then
So the picture that you've got on your site where you're all sort of talking to each other is obviously not you. Then it'll be a stock.
Yeah, I think that's just a stock image.
Yeah. So, but that's really interesting that you've got young people who you're expecting to train, but you're not actually.
Yeah.
Are you ever with them?
Yeah. So we booked in for our first team day in February, which will be great. So they'll come down to London. One of them lives literally probably like 5 minutes away from me. Like weirdly enough, it wasn't planned or anything.
No.
But yeah, we keep, there's never a better time to communicate with people without having to be with them. There was a time not long ago where this podcast would have been that we would have all met up in a studio, and it would have been a whole day of speaking for an hour's podcast, really.
Kevin and I in the same place, it's not likely to happen. I mean,
it'd be weird if you were in the same place, just in different rooms.
Yeah. 6 years with the podcasts, and how many times have we actually met face to face, Graham? Is it
3 or 4?
3 times or 4 times?
Yeah, it's not bad out of 7 years, is it? Or 6, 7 years? I can't remember how long.
This is the 7th.
Yeah. So, but the nice thing is you're absolutely right, Steve. You don't need to, but no. in a job situation, I've done it both ways, and I know which one I prefer. That said, I do really, really like you for taking on kids, because I think Kickstarter is a brilliant campaign.
Yeah.
And sorry, I hadn't really cottoned on to the fact that they'd closed that down.
Yeah.
I thought they'd extended it, but I didn't know if it was.
Yeah. So they extended it for you to apply. So they extended it until it was originally going to end in December, I think, in terms of the jobs, and then they extended it, but you still had to apply before December. So if you didn't apply before December, you weren't going to get it.
Got you.
But now I think it now ends in officially in March or something like that.
Well, I mean, hopefully they'll reconsider, because governments have got that opportunity to do so. So, but I like it. I think it's a really good idea, because at the end of the day, if you, like you say, if you're on universal credit, it does mean that you're not working, and you're probably not training, and so bringing those people in and giving them a chance I think is a super way of
yeah. I mean, we take it all with a pinch of salt, though, because obviously we interviewed some people that were a dreadful interview, and didn't really have any intention to have the job or anything. They just, they interviewed. But I would say 80% of the people we interviewed were fantastic. Whether they would have been fantastic for us is another story, but they were a fantastic candidate. And it's just a massive pool of employment that people can utilize. And also, we think about the benefits of working, the benefits of earning money, the self-worth that comes with that, the mental side of it that comes with that. There's so many different benefits other than let's just get people into work. It's countless. And so it's amazing. I hope they do bring it back.
So GrowLeady then is really all about lead generation.
All about growth. Yeah.
And all about growth. That's interesting. Okay. Let's just okay. What's an acceptable level of result then for your client?
Oh, that's a trick question. I believe it or not.
Yeah. How long is a piece of string?
Well,
I know, but I mean,
I would say an acceptable level result is an ROI within 3 months.
Okay.
So, this is one of the things that comes up a lot in terms of when can I see results? And sometimes you can turn a campaign on and leads will come that day, literally. You could send a cold email to someone and they reply and it's like, I want to book a call. We count a lead as someone that has said, in terms of the cold outreach side of things, someone that said hi, Stephen, I want to get on a call, rather than, I'm interested in hearing more, or, let's speak in 6 months' time, because when does that really ever happen? Very rarely. So we count that as a lead, whereas a lot of other companies would just be like, we just work on prospects and you get 1,000 prospects a month and they could be from anywhere. So we kind of try and be an extension of the client, almost like that. Treat us as if we're an internal people for you. And that's why, our communication with them is really open. We have shared Slack channels with all our clients and everything is really, really open. And then with the ad side of things, that's even more quicker sometimes. But you've also got to remember with everything that we do, that you have to warm things up. You have to get the juices flowing with a lot of things. With ads, you have to build audiences, and depending on the client, sometimes they've done ads before, so they have that kind of thing. With email, we have a 2-week warm-up period where we have to warm up the domains to make them all friendly with all other email boxes. LinkedIn's the quickest in terms of turning on, because we can normally get that going within 3 days. But we write all the copy in-house and we focus on the target areas, and we really narrow down that avatar for the clients, because the most important part of any process is the start in that strategy side, and then when it's live and when it's active, because you cannot do anything and just go, right, it's live, I'm going to sit back and relax now. You have to tweak it. You have to look at it. You have to make sure it's working. And if it's not working, why isn't it working? If some of the stats are going down, why are they going down? Can we put them back up? Does something need to be changed? There's constantly running, moving parts with every campaign running, which I think there's just that slightly goes unseen bit, isn't it? It's what goes on behind the scenes.
A lot of the stuff that you will do for clients is you're kind of setting things up, getting them going, reviewing them. You've just said that. Yeah. So is your growth, GrowLeady's growth, is that limited by the number of people that you'll ultimately have, or is it have you got some sort of almost leverage, because it is about setting them up and then getting them going and so forth? Are you restricted by the number of people?
Not so much in that sense. So we take care of everything from prospect to appointment booking. So we do email handling for people on the cold email side of things. So everything until they get on a call with you, basically. Yeah. And we did some big hiring to the end of last year to set us up for the next probably at least Q1 in terms of capacity and growth. Yeah. And we have no limitations of how many clients we bring on. It's more the type of clients we bring on, because to your comment earlier about saying no to clients, when we first started, we didn't say no to clients, because obviously you want clients and you take people on and it's great. But now we definitely say no to clients. We turn clients away if they're not a great fit. So our growth is limited by me and Nick, really. How big do we want to get? Where do we want to go? And we've got fairly big plans in we want to move down into acquiring other agencies and go down that route for growth, as well as internal growth. And like I mentioned earlier, building internal brands as well. So there's multiple different avenues of growth for us. And I speak about this a lot to my coaching clients, about how in personal life or personal development, you hear a lot about, everyone has to have 7 streams of income, have 7 streams, et cetera, but no one speaks about it in business, right? And you've got to have it in business as well. You've got to have multiple streams of lead generation, multiple streams of growth, multiple streams to get to market. I think too many people get too focused on one avenue, one direction, when multiple things will work for them. And a lot of the things that will work, people can set them up on their own and they can run pretty autonomously. And even if it brings in, a percent of your turnover a year, that's a percent that you weren't going to get otherwise.
Yeah. I think it's also true that when these days we're all reliant on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, whatever it is, we know from experience those guys can change the rules overnight.
Yeah.
And that can very easily turn off a stream of lead generation, can turn off a stream of income. So I think you've got to have that resilience in place. So coming back to the 7 channels, 7 streams of income, I think it's a very, very valid argument. You don't want all your eggs in one basket.
And this is what always scared me when people said about the organic side of things, because algorithms do change. People, Instagram announced last week that they're changing their not their algorithm, but the way that people are viewing things, and you can view it in 3 different sections now. You can view just your followers, you can view your favorites, you can view hashtags or something like that. Can't remember now, but that's great for the end user. But then, all of us, our guys, we're thinking, great, how is that going to be beneficial for us? Is it not? At the end of the day, it probably will be, because it usually is. Everyone complains about things changing all the time, but things change all the time regardless. You have to adapt. You have to pick yourself up. You have to think, okay, how else can I do this? It's only when you stop thinking is when you start struggling.
And back in the day, we used Twitter more or less exclusively to grow this podcast. I managed to get myself a Twitter following of 50 or 60,000 people quite easily. And we had automation that was putting out tweets every few hours about every podcast episode we'd ever produced. And Twitter changed the rules. Number one, you couldn't retweet the same tweet. So we were really, really limited the amount of tweets we could put out. And secondly, it became an awful lot more difficult to continue making those new connections on Twitter to the people that we thought were potentially interesting. Had the same again in LinkedIn last year. And LinkedIn changed their rules considerably. The business that I'm mainly involved in now, it's a B2B. We were looking constantly to connect to new people of a certain profile. And that was great. We were connecting with 50, 60, 70 people every day. And LinkedIn changed the rules and really throttled back on the number of connection requests you could send out. And these things change, and they change radically.
There is a cheeky workaround for that one, but I'll tell you that afterwards.
Tell us when we're not recording.
Do you have a favourite channel?
For me, in terms of what I enjoy using or what I think is for...
Well, I'm sure there's a channel that makes you the most money, and there's a channel that you enjoy using.
The channel I enjoy using most on a personal level is probably Instagram, just because it's full of defenders and, my friends and things. So it's full of the things I like. Kind of like...
Sorry, you said defenders. I mean...
Land Rover Defender 90. Come on.
Oh, right. With you. I thought you meant the latest number 5 for Newcastle.
That one.
I'd have this whole room full of defenders if I could.
I didn't realise we
defenders
had
in terms of centre halves. We could do a few of those, Graham.
Well, I've got to say that's Newcastle are buying everybody, aren't they? But sorry, that'll date us, because by the time it goes out, then Newcastle will be in the bottom 3. Anyway,
this goes out, the transfer window will be shut, and we'll have bought the whole Premier League.
I don't know about that. But yeah, so Defenders, pictures of Defenders. And I have to say, I'm sure that if anybody's listening to this who are my neighbours, they might actually see a new car on the drive before long, because and I'm getting a Tesla Model Y, and of course you can't see them over here. And in fact, actually this Saturday, Dawn and I are actually going to go to Manchester to test drive one. And I'm really looking forward to that. But it's on order. Now, that product purchase was, 8/10 online.
Yeah.
And which is really weird given how much money it's going to cost me. But the point is that I can see on Instagram, and I do like Instagram for that, and the little videos and all the rest of that. And actually seeing little modern family clips, love stuff like that. It is quite a fun medium. So I guess, like you were saying earlier, then other slightly older people are there.
Yeah, I mean, any social platform is going to find their users, and every social platform needs to monetize. Whether that's from the app next door, the neighborhood app, to Instagram, to Twitter, to TikTok, to OnlyFans. Every social media platform has to monetize, because
Kevin's got an OnlyFans account. I don't know what he does on it. It's just
never heard of OnlyFans.
I think he might take his clothes off in some way, but that'd scare the horses. But no, sorry, go on.
No, but it's funny, isn't it? Because even if you have never experienced I've never been on OnlyFans, but I know what OnlyFans is, and interesting thing about them is that they completely grew massively for a very specific niche that we all know about. But then before Christmas, they turned around and said that they're changing. They're not allowing that material on there anymore, which is the majority of their user base, and that was because their payment processor didn't allow it, which in my view, I'm like, well, why don't you just buddy up with a payment processor that does allow it? Keep it like that. But there's any social media platform, like I said, is going to get traction. It's going to have ads. It's going to monetize itself in some way, and we can all benefit from that if we're open to it, right?
And because Instagram's your favorite.
Instagram's favorite in terms of just like relaxing, scrolling.
Yeah. But which is the one that makes your business money?
Probably LinkedIn at the moment, because we only started doing ads recently, so we're still like ramping that side up. But that's probably going to overtake eventually. But LinkedIn at the moment is probably the social media that makes us the most income, just because a lot of people don't really understand it and do it wrong. We don't do many paid ads on LinkedIn. We do a lot of LinkedIn outreach management. And when you see people message, if I go into my LinkedIn now, I will have hundreds of messages of people like just ridiculously scripted message, or trying to get me on a webinar, or download this PDF or thing because I've got one word mentioned in my profile, and that stuff doesn't work anymore.
You have 16,000 followers. I'm just looking at your LinkedIn profile now. So when you look at it later, you'll see that I've been stalking you. So basically, but 16,000 followers, that's huge.
Yeah, it's I've been on it since day one, though. That's a long time coming. I think probably over the last majority of those are probably over the last 3 or 4 years. And it's a great tool because it gets you in front of the people that you need to get in front of. It gets you speaking to people that you want to speak to. I think people take LinkedIn a little bit too seriously, personally. And that's a whole nother debate about what LinkedIn should be used for. But my big view is, people buy from humans, human to human interaction. Even if you're buying from an app, it's still a human that has written that and curated that. A human has put that ad in a place that is going to make you buy that. And with LinkedIn, it's just human to human business, and people kind of shy away from that, I think, a little bit. They think, I've got to be really formal, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And now I think people are just crying out for and this is why podcasts, I believe, have got ridiculously popular, because it's just real conversations with real people having a really good talk. And
I'm real Kevin's AI.
I did wonder.
I'd love to see an AI that can do a podcast. I discovered a lovely piece of AI the other day that can actually write a blog post, which I was fascinated by.
There's some really good AI writing copy at the moment. Some of them are not great. And funny enough, AI, I've played around with a lot of it, and it's more the longer form copy that works better than the short form. We tested it for seeing if it would work for some cold email stuff in terms of first lines, and the lines were just ridiculously bad. But the longer form stuff was pretty good.
Well, one of our previous guests has written a book on headlines and copy, and so But I noticed that some of the overlapping people between yourself and me, several of those have been on our podcast. So, there you go. Yeah, so it was quite interesting. And I've only gone to the third page, and I've already seen about 5 or 6 of the.
You're back in 2016, that kind of thing. You've scrolled down.
We all move in the right circles. That's what
48 mutual connections. That's a lot.
No, well, I mean, obviously, podcasting's probably brought together. I mean, just looking even on the next page. Good God! I mean, there's 7. This is boring to anybody who's not listening. Who's listening to this, but what I'm really saying is that I suppose podcasters to podcast, then there's an awful lot of overlap, and some of these people, I mean, first of all, are fascinating people, and so I'm not surprised that you're also linked to Angel Jones, for instance, he must have done more podcasts than anybody on earth. I mean,
we talked about Stephen with a voice for podcasting.
He was I think
he has one fantastic voice.
Oh, chocolate. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think he was the very first time I ever was a guest on a podcast. His 12-minute convos, back in, that would have been in 2015, 2016.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have to say, well, it's so nice that you're so well connected, but 16,000 followers. I mean, somebody must think you're producing good stuff. I mean, you've been really pretty good so far. I mean, you haven't told us who your football team is, though. You're
not going to like it.
Oh God.
Well, mainly because I'm not actually a big football supporter.
Oh, that's all right then.
However, my fiance is a big Chelsea supporter.
Oh, right. Okay.
And the very first football game I ever went to was QPR versus Millwall. So I loved it because there was flares, and I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic.
My son-in-law's dad's a big Millwall supporter. He's always trying to get me along to the den.
I'll tell you what, though, I may not be interested in football, but I love going to a football match. I love the atmosphere of just watching a match. And actually, I think I enjoy it more than the people I'm going with, because I don't really have any emotional involvement if someone scores or not. Obviously, I'm going for the team I'm sat next to. But I love it. If any of my friends say, hey, do you want to come to a football match? I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm
sure some of your friends, given where you live, etc., might well be supporters of West Ham, but Leeds played down there last weekend. They're playing there this weekend. And the general feedback, certainly on Twitter and places like that, was that for those guys who went, and there's about 8,000 who went last weekend, which is amazing, really. They just found it such one of the worst stadiums for football that you could possibly imagine, because it wasn't a football designed stadium. So I'm like a ball. It might be great for cricket or something. I don't know. But the point is, it does not work for football. And they said the preponderance of half scarves, etc. And they weren't. I feel sorry for West Ham because I quite like the team as they're a good, solid, football team with great fans, but they've moved to a place that's not conducive to atmosphere.
So I'm guessing the stadium was built more for like concerts and
it was it's called the Olympic Stadium, but the Olympic Cup. So you probably had something to do with that, Kevin.
Well, back in the day, Graham, this was about 2007, 2008. I was on secondment to London 2012, and I remember the day that the plans for the main stadium for the Olympics were unveiled in the office.
Wow.
And one of the big things about the Olympics is the legacy objectives of what you're doing. And lots of questions were asked about the legacy of this stadium they were putting together. And I remember distinctly on that day, somebody saying, oh, and this will never become a Premier League football ground. It's there for community. It's there for minority sport. It's there to help all sorts of other people. But here we are, West Ham.
And then the checkbook got opened, and the rest is history.
Are still jealous that they didn't get it.
I don't think Tottenham Hotspur should be jealous at all, because their stadium is absolutely brilliant. But it's cost them a fortune. But I think it was just the point about atmosphere, and I can understand that atmosphere is the bit that drags you towards, because actually, in a sense, what you're doing with your outreach in a way is creating the something metaphysically like atmosphere, isn't it? You're getting them to say yes to that action that you want to take. Yep. Is there something that we can learn from you?
Wow, many things, many things. In relation to ads,
in terms of if you had somebody new to the team and you say, look, here's our special sauce that gets people to say yes. It might be just, whatever.
Really simple. I said it earlier, be a human. I think that is vastly overlooked. I think people have, people try too hard almost. There is so much to say about a very good communicative person. And it kind of goes back to like the old school sales methods, because, back when there wasn't any social media or stuff, you had to speak to people, you had to communicate. And the best sales calls I've ever had was where we've just had a really great conversation. We've built that rapport, and from there they want to work with us. I'm not a hard closer. I don't really enjoy doing that. Some people need that. Some people need to be closed hard to buy because they have a fear of buying as well. So my bit of advice is learn how to communicate in a way that suits your style, because everyone can model someone else. But when you talk about modeling as well, it's not about directly mirroring them. It's about taking the qualities that you want from someone and bringing it within yourself. When I was doing my coaching training, that was one of the exercises, and that's how it was described. It's not about saying, I want to be like Elon Musk, so I'm going to walk like him, talk like him, behavior like him. You go, okay, what quality of Elon Musk do you want to be like? And it might be that, his public speaking or his confidence or something like that. And you just mirror that quality, because that quality is all you need often. You don't need everything. People have way more belief within themselves than they ever realize. And it's only when you start communicating better with other people, communicating better with yourself, that comes to light. So my advice for anyone, whether it's for cold outreach, always communication, everything boils down to, the copying an ad, the way we write an email, everything.
On the 3rd anniversary of your marriage, where would you like to be in your business career?
Oh, great question. So 3 years from now, I would love to funny enough, me and my co-founder had a strategy day the other day, and we're really in line. We're really in sync. And for us, it's about being in a position where GrowLeady as an agency is catering to larger brands, more exciting products. We have multiple internal brands within that. And we're getting to that stage where we're acquiring other agencies, we're acquiring other companies to bring into the group. We're a big believer that we want to create the group. We want to create something that is going to be around for a long time, something that is tangible as well, because agencies can come and go, but once you start creating assets within agencies and assets within businesses, that's where the life cycle is. By that time we'll probably have sort of an MD sort of person running the day-to-day of it, so we can focus on that acquisition side and the internal brand side. We've got quite a clear plan. I have no doubt that we will get it, maybe before the 3 years, let's hope. And on a personal level, I want to be living on a farm in Essex somewhere.
You can see there, Graham, how that 365 conversations with founders is playing out into reality.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'll try not to embarrass you, but I think you've been a fantastic guest.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You genuinely have so much to offer. For somebody who's relatively, I'm going to ask your age anyway, because I don't really care. I mean,
29.
I was going to say, you there you are. I didn't realize you were still in your 20s, but I'm
30 in June. So depending when you release this.
No, no, it'll be before June. So basically, here we have somebody in his 20s. I suppose you'll be a millennial. Are you still a millennial?
I'm not sure I'm not sure if I get really confused about the whole like Gen.
My kids were millennials, and my youngest is 26.
I think 27. I'm not. I think I'm Gen, whatever the other one is, Gen Z. I think
Gen
that's
Z.
what I am.
Yeah. Oh, good God.
Does it matter putting people in boxes? Hey, we're just individuals.
Well, no, and actually, don't particularly care for that anyway. But no, you've offered us so much value in such a lovely way, and with a wonderful voice, a voice of a podcaster, but I think you're actually adding value to the world, certainly with your podcast, but the way in which you're going about GrowLeady. So every success with that. And Stephen, thanks for being a guest on the next 100 Days podcast.
Graham, there was so much in that. We covered so many different topics with Stephen. You can tell that all of those conversations with founders have rubbed off on him, and he's an expert in so many fields now.
Oh, he is. It's a bit like as a Renaissance man, and there's so much more to give. And this year is tying up his social and his personal life with a marriage, but he's also got great plans for GrowLeady, and you can find more about GrowLeady at growleady.io. So, today, I guess we've learned so much about, things like social media and various platforms, and, maybe what's good and the types of approaches that you might take, maybe even how much money you might want to spend. So it's been really valuable, Kevin.
And I'll link this back as well to the podcast we did a couple of weeks ago with John Lamerton, where John was giving his view on social, and how social is a network, not a media. It's about talking to people. It's about creating relationships with people. It's not about bombarding them with sales material.
It's a bit like one of those fights, isn't it? We should get John and Stephen together, because I think maybe their views might slightly differ. But having said that,
they would. I think they'd start violently agreeing with each other.
I don't know. Maybe up to a point. But I think if you look at these places as paid media, and that you can address an audience within that platform pretty accurately, then bombarding is perhaps not the right word, but then you can get messages served to those people.
Well, interesting to go back to Stephen's view of the most, what he thought were the most satisfied entrepreneurs he talked to, the ones that were largely not on those platforms, the ones that didn't feel the need to be posting something 3 times a day. And I remember John's comments about the folk that go in there and post 3 times a day and feel they've got to because a certain high-profile social expert has told them to. Anyway, Graham.
Yeah, no, it's not something that you or I are going to be doing in spades, but he's been an absolutely fantastic guest, and I'm sure we'll have him back again another time. Today, I've been Graham Arrowsmith.
I've been Kevin Appleby. Goodbye.
Goodbye.